So, hi everybody, and welcome to the PlantStock channel. Today, I have an interesting guest for you. JKR Investing. It's Jacob here. So, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, Jesse. Thank you for having me on the channel.
Thank you for coming along. So, we thought we're going to have a discussion today about TTCF, Tattoo Chef, the ongoing thing that most people seem interested in. And then we might talk a little about Beyond Meat as well. And before we get going, I just wanted to show you his channel. Here you go. So JKR Daily Stock Market Videos. He is at almost 11,000 subscribers soon and counting. And as you know, you can see here that it's a lot about TTCF. And if you just talk about it here, what do you normally focus on besides TTCF?
I think it's a mixture of stocks, really. I focus on probably a lot more growth stocks. I think people are more interested into growth stocks. I cover a lot more growth stocks. But as well as that, because I'm from the UK, there's not too many UK investors that
Right.
cover stocks on YouTube. So quite recently, there's been a few UK stocks that have gone on there at the moment. So I think with the whole what's happened over the last 12 months, a lot more people are interested into investing. And I think over the last few years on the UK scene, more and more people are getting into investing.
Right.
And I think they're looking for a YouTube channel. And because I have a British accent, or I think I've had a few people go, "Can you start doing some UK stocks?" So yeah, we've been covering the likes of Tattoo Chef, Beyond Meat, but also the likes of Greg's, Hollywood Ball, Boohoo, S4 Capital. So yeah, a good mixture of stocks we cover on the channel.
Great. And actually, in the end, one of my subscribers wanted you to talk a little about Kickbox. Uh,
All right, yes,
yeah.
yeah.
So that's perfect, and that's a British company, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a small UK company. It's one that I've only just recently been buying. I think in the last maybe month, 2 month.
Right.
But it caught my eye because I looked at what they had expansion wise, and I looked at the stores they were opening. They're going to double the stores in the next few years, and I thought, wow, it looks pretty good. The products are amazing. I've tasted them myself,
All right.
and yeah. So it's one that I want to buy. The only thing that puts me off is the valuation a little bit. It has been on a good run, but yeah, very interesting. Someone wants to know about Cake Box. Yeah.
All right. We'll go into that later then. So, but if we just start talking about basically you, I mean, who are you? So, JKR, you're Jacob, right? So, and
Yep.
you're from the UK. Where are you situated in the UK?
I'm from Leeds in Yorkshire, so I think my accent sometimes is quite strong. That gives a Yorkshire accent away for some of the words I say. Sometimes I always get a few comments in the videos saying that's a very strong Yorkshire accent that I've got going on. But yeah, basically, from when I started investing into the stock market, it must have been around 2017ish, and when I first started, it wasn't on this YouTube channel that I have now. It was another one, but I kind of covered a few stocks that I'm buying, and kind of started off more as talking about, I just wanted to like keep a record of my investing journey.
Mm.
And as more and more time's gone on, it's got to more talking about stocks that I don't potentially own, or my thoughts on different situations. So yeah, really the big thing when I first started it was to kind of just see if anyone was interested in watching my progress through the stock market. And I
Yeah.
was basically just doing videos every kind of week, 2 weeks, going, oh, I'm up on these stocks, and uh, just a bit of record for myself to go back and go, oh, look, this investing does work. If you do buy good companies over time and hold them, they do go up in value. And yeah, just snowballed from there, really. And we are where we are now.
Wow. And I was also going to ask there then that what's your preferred? I mean, when it comes to investment, your investment philosophy, basically. I mean, are you more of an investor, or you're a trader, a combination? Do you swing trade? I mean, normally, what do you prefer to do?
I prefer a good mixture of them. I think if you can complete the complete mixture of stocks from maybe long-term swing plays, value, dividends, growth, I think that will make you the complete investor if you can do that. So I try to do all three if I can. The one thing that I always struggled with a few years ago was getting my head around growth stock and growth stocks and how much valuation you pay up for a growth stock. Whereas for when I started, I kind of watched a lot of Warren Buffett and studied, the intelligent investor, understanding, okay, if you can work off P ratios, you get very easy to get a value of what a value stock should be trading at.
Yeah.
But with growth stocks, I found that a little bit trickier, adjusting from value to growth. But overall, I like to cover them all. Going back to the question is, all of them if I can. But my portfolio is based around growth stock and trying to pick up growth stocks that can double over the next 2 to 5 years. But potentially some of them, like a TTCF, is that I'm looking at that one going, even in 5 years' time, this is still very early days on this company that has so much potential past that period. So, it's all individual cases, really. But if I can combine them all, that's what I try and do if I can.
Well, that's good. And I like also that I think you're pretty on the low key when it comes to a lot of YouTubers that you talked about that on your channel too, that a lot of us, and that includes me at times, that we talk about, oh, this company could 10x or this could happen soon. And I thought we'd talk later about Emmanuel Finance. He came out a video about that the company TTCF could 25x maybe in 10 years. And he had his bull case for that. And I did a response to that video yesterday, if it's possible and so on. But you seem to be kind of low key there. Like I think you mentioned that just doing a but doing a double, doing a 2x, that's still great. I mean, in so many ways.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't want to put, when I invest into companies, I don't want to put too much pressure on the going up so quickly, because then you kind of look and you get caught up going, oh, well, it's not doing that. And I just kind of look and go, as long as it 2x's in the next few years, I'm happy, because there's not many other investments. If I kept that money in the bank account, I wouldn't get that interest on what money I had in the bank account. And I just think if you can do that, that's great. But these are few stocks like TTCF that I'm looking at going, realistically, I do want more than double on this company. I think it has the potential to do it. But, as long as I get double, that's still good. I'm fine with that. So, yeah,
it is.
I don't want to put too much pressure on it.
Definitely. And something I've been more and more interested in lately is options. Is that something you've done?
I personally don't do options, but I can appreciate that there's very good money to be made in options.
Yeah, I think it's Warren Buffett who actually talked about that. He didn't believe in options at all, considering that he feels you can't predict the future, which is obviously absolutely correct. And so why waste time on it? But then, of course, I'm thinking like, I'm a bit older than most of you guys, and sometimes I'm like, well, if I was 25 or 30, yeah, maybe. And like Warren Buffett, when did he start? He was like super young. I mean, he's been doing this for at least, I think, 70 years or something like that. So obviously, if I felt I had a lot of time, like I could not consider it. So, but I've been on the fence when it comes to options for about a year. I still haven't tried it. I've been thinking about learning about it, but I get the gist, how it works, with puts and calls. But I do find same thing with swing trading, because on my channel we promote mostly long-term investing, because I mean statistically, people who use long-term strategies usually do far better than people who swing trade or are traders. But I do enjoy what you said. Maybe there's room for a combination of them all, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, if you can improve yourself as an investor and open up to different ways that you can make money, for sure, I think that will make you the best investor you can be, isn't it? But like you're saying, Jesse, I totally agree. Like the longer term you go, the more you put your odds in your favor that you're going to get right on whatever you're buying. That's the big thing. And I think sometimes people forget that, and sometimes can hop very quickly between stocks and just thinking, well, you know what, instead of hopping between stocks, if you just held a long period of time, it would have outperformed hopping between the stocks. And if you have a great company at great prices, don't overlook that too much, because only if a major event happens that you can sometimes get back down to them sort of prices. And some of them major events, as we know, don't come around that often. So and same with I think options as well. If you do call options, I think from what I've seen and what I know, which I don't know much about it, so maybe not listen to me on this, but I think even call options, if you put them probably further down the line on whatever your expiry date is, I think is probably the best way to make money on them call options, because then you've got more chance of the stock kind of getting picked up, and what you think why the stock will go up in value will start coming to affecting the revenue and profit, and that will reflect in the share price. So that's what I think I know about that, but it's not my big area. But
No, that's
yeah,
basically the kind of information I have about it too. And
yeah,
but I mean, when it comes to these like swing trades or taking profits to some extent, it does feel like some companies, when you cover it as much as we do, like for instance the Chef and Beyond Meat, then I feel that there are times when I feel like, man, I should have taken some profits here because it was so obvious that it's going to fall down like crazy. Like one of my biggest, I'm not sure regret or whatever, because it kind of goes against my investment philosophy. But I understand, it's a journey. You change as an investor. But Beyond Meat in January, when they got the PepsiCo deal,
yes,
and it went up like 40% to begin when the market opened. I was like, this is like, I was sitting and looking at it, and I was sweating basically. I'm like, what should I do? Should I take trim like 20-30% of my positions? And today, yes, obviously I should have, and because again, we can't predict the market, but when you follow a company, it usually has like 20-30% short. It just makes sense that, yeah, it's not going to keep those 40%. And
yeah. I know what you mean. I remember the exact event. It's when that Pepsi deal came out, and the stock. It was like on the day as well, and then even like a few days afterwards, I think it went on a good run, didn't it? And
yeah,
I remember when it happened at the time, I got a notification through when I was working at the time, and I saw it. Went, wow, that is massive. And then after probably about an hour or so, I'll get messages, and all I could see on the messages was Beyond Meat, and then some like emojis and stuff. I was like, something's going on here. This is going crazy. And then I looked, and I was like, it was one of those days as well, because it'd been a pretty rough couple of months before that as well. And I remember looking at it going, wow, that is crazy. So yeah, I remember that at the time. And yeah, I was thinking about the same thing. And I was like, oh, I'm in this company for the long run, but like a 40-50% jump in the share price within a few days, I was like, this is not right. This is a crazy jump. So
no,
yeah,
no,
but
I'm also starting to consider some strategies for in the future when it comes to like the Chef and Beyond and some of my other investments. That if I feel that if it goes up like 5-10% and it feels it's organically, right? It feels like, well, it makes sense, I mean, long term, I feel like whatever. Like a lot of people talk about Beyond Meat being very overvalued, but I'm not worried if it's a long-term thing, like 5-10 years ahead, because I feel like they will grow into that valuation and far beyond. But if I feel it goes too fast, there's no real news for that, then I'm starting to consider, should I maybe have like a strategy, take out 10% or 20% profit, and then just cool down and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing that I was kind of looking at times is like probably a few years ago is that I was seeing quite a few stocks jumping up off some news, and the jump was like, whoa, that's a bit of a crazy jump, is that? And then the next few times it would kind of pull back on after the news and everyone calmed down and everything like that. So yeah, like the Beyond Meat, I trimmed 10% on the Beyond Meat position when that the jump happened, because I just thought,
Nice.
if I ever see anything that I just think is just so unnatural that,
Yeah.
more than likely I'll probably be able to get that 10% back in when it all cools down. If not, I've still got a big massive position that's still going to run the long run.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something that I've tried to do over the last kind of probably 12 months, is that when I see something that I'm like, that's crazy,
Yeah.
then take that little bit of profit for sure, because the chance of it pulling back after a massive jump like that is pretty high.
It is. And I understood also, like most things in life, if you're put into a box, what kind of person you are, I mean, like, no matter what in life, right? You get stuck in your ways, and you have a hard time breaking out of that. Like for me, I'm still a hardcore long-term investor, but sometimes you might be so hardcore that when the opportunity is there, and even though you want to make a move, you're like, no, it breaks the rules, It's like,
Yeah.
and I think that might not be too smart in some situations, and that's why I'm trying to be more flexible in situations like that. I have a friend. He went out of Tesla, I think 100% when Tesla a couple of months ago went down, and he had like, I think maybe $40,000-$50,000 in it, and he went out, all of it, because he thought, oh my god, it's going to go way down, and
Yeah.
I'm going to lose so much, because you don't actually lose, right, when you're not selling out if it's not going to bankrupt. I don't think Tesla's
Mhm.
going bankrupt anytime soon. But so then he panicked when he noticed that it stopped and it had gone down, and then he didn't go down. It started going up again, and then he eventually actually bought in again and losing, I think, 20,000 or something like that.
Wow.
And that's the part of the journey, right? We learn, but some of those lessons are really painful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's the thing is like is I think when you it's the emotion of investing because you get so involved in a lot of these companies, especially like when we were saying previously about when you're buying stocks like Beyond Meat, Tattoo Chef,
Mm.
you've done so much research, and if they're going up, it's so hard for you to like let go of that 10% because you're so committed to the company. And there's also part of you that thinks, well, what if it goes up even higher and higher? And sometimes you just kind of got to disconnect yourself and go,
Yeah.
look, a few months ago, if you got offered 50% on your share price, you would have been happy with that. So what's wrong with taking a bit of profit? And I think as well is the other way when it's going down and down and down, that's definitely a big, massive emotional testing time when you see stocks going down, especially when the 2020 dip of March with the CV situation,
Yeah.
that when that was going down every day, I was like, right, I'm not looking at my portfolio for the next week because this is painful. And it's,
What was it? FMCI, or was it?
what's that? Sorry.
Which company was that went down like that?
Oh no, I've just been the whole CV dip with the
Yeah, yeah,
pandemic back in March 2020
yeah.
when it
All
was
right,
going
right,
down
right.
and down and down.
Yeah,
Like it's just when you see your portfolio just going so quick and the gains that you've had for so many like months and years, it's like oh my god,
yeah.
it's painful. It's painful, but
That
if not
happened to
being for those,
me with the chef when it was FMCI, right? I'm not sure, when did you go
oh yeah, yeah.
into, when did you start investing in Tattoo Chef?
I would guess around maybe October time. It
Okay.
was still before it was merged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was this, so I went in, I think, around August, September, when it was when it was FMCI, and then it was around $17, right? And I
Mhm.
sure wish I would have gone in when it was around 10 as a SPAC, but that's when I went in, and we went in pretty heavy, and so for being us, anyways, we went in about, I would say, nine or $10,000, right? Because I was really happy about the new plant-based company out there. That's my whole thing, right? That was before I started the channel, and then after just a couple of hours when we did that, or a day or two, it went up to like 24, 25, and eventually I think it was up at 27, 28, and we were
Yep.
super happy, right? We're just looking at how it grew, and then, as we know, when it came out, the talks about, it was in October, right? About that it might not merge. It flew down like so quickly in a couple of days, and was down to 14 or $15, right? And I remember seeing that, sitting with it, because I didn't put the same effort and time of being used to what happened in the stock market as you do today, right? When you're living this world now, you get used to those emotions, hopefully. And but when I was looking at, oh my God, should we sell out? Should we sell out? Because it's crazy. Oh no, it's under 17 now where we put our money. And then I was like, oh, Warren Buffett, those diamond hands, like keep it. And then because the worry wasn't actually for me, like with Tesla. We're pretty invested in Tesla right now. That's our largest portfolio, and but with Tesla, even if it would go under my initial investment, I wouldn't care because I'm long term. Nothing is going to happen. But I mean, that would be an opportunity to just invest more, right? But with
Mhm.
FMCI, if the merger wouldn't happen, and it would go down, right? Then I would only get money back up to $10, right? With a
Mhm.
SPAC. So I would lose a lot of money just like that if the merger wouldn't happen. So that was the thing there that I felt, this is a different situation, right? It's like, maybe I need to get the heck out of Dodge. But eventually I just felt like, nah, I can't. I don't see the logics. This is a great company, and why wouldn't they make this happen? It's going to be a bad situation for everyone. So I just felt like, just try to be logical, and it's going to be okay.
100%. Yeah, I think the big thing is as well, it's like when you want to buy a company, you want it on a dip, really, don't you? Because that
Yes.
gives you the best opportunity to make more and more money, get a better valuation. But realistically, you don't get them opportunities without bad news. And
Yeah.
that's what really causes the dip in the share price.
Yeah.
And then when you're like, oh, I want to have a dip in this company, I want to buy more.
Yeah.
And then the dip comes, but then it's probably because of some bad news. Then you look at the dip and go, oh, I don't know if I want it now because I've just seen the news, what's caused the dip. And
Yeah.
then you kind of like, oh, now I don't know if I want to buy it. And that's what causes the dip most of the time. And you've just got to kind of go through the news and assess, how realistic is this to affect the company? What will happen?
Yeah.
And as long as you feel like fundamentally this company is still strong, or your belief of what's going to happen is still going to happen,
Yeah.
then go buy the dip, and hopefully you'd get the rewards. And that's the awful thing about waiting on the dip. And when dips happen, is normally it's tied with bad news. I mean, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just a whole correction. But that's the painful thing to go through.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, man. So then let's go into the chef. On this channel, it is obvious that it's the most popular company because every time I do these kind of polls, like what do you want to see more of on the channel, or what company should we talk more about? And it's always like about 65 to 70% is Tattoo Chef. Obviously, I'm not at your level at the moment. I'm about 2,600 subscribers soon. But usually there's a lot of people in the polls, like between 400, 500, 600 people. And they're like 65, 70% it's about the chef, right? So,
Yeah.
so
Well, the content you put up is amazing, Jesse, and I think you'll be 10,000 in no time. So it's getting there. It's getting there.
Here's hoping, man. So, and I think it's the same thing. If we show the folks the channel again, yeah, here you see 10,500 right now, and it's been growing quite quickly as of late because it was just recently you came up to 10,000, right?
Yeah.
So I remember looking and thinking, whoa, already 10.5 now. It's going really quickly here.
Yeah.
So you're doing great. So, but what I thought is, so your bull case to begin with, then for the chef. What do you like about the company, basically?
I think the big thing that got me sucked into Tattoo Chef was when I first looked at the company and I saw that they had gone from this, white label brand to actually creating a Tattoo Chef, and then seeing how well that brand is growing. The sales were growing absolutely huge. I looked at, I think at the time, I don't even think they had the Target deal at the time. I think it was just Costco and Walmart, I think it was.
Mm.
And then I think not too long after that, then they did get the first kind of couple of SKUs in Target. And then I realized, like, oh, this company is actually, when you look at the case of if these major stores are taking on brand, and then when they're taking on their brand, they're getting more and more SKUs in. You look at the branded product and how quick it's growing, and then you also look at the management team and what the management teams achieved previously.
Yeah.
I was just looking at it going, this is a catalyst for amazing things, is this?
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to have to go buy some shares. And originally it was like a mid-sized position, but the more that it stayed around this 17, 18, even 19, $20, I feel, when it stays in this sort of range, and the more the company has developed so quick, even since I've been investing into it this last 6 months, and the more news that comes out with this company, I'm just like, while it's at this range, it's just crazy, crazy good. And how they developed it is amazing. I mean, the other day when I was, I'm sure you saw it, because I think you mentioned it, give a shout out on your video as well, about which, thank you for, about the Kroger deal.
Yeah.
And that, even that's, I don't know if it's confirmed, but you would be thinking, why is Kroger on the website and everything like that? I'm just looking, the more brand deals they have, Kroger aren't going to take this product. They've gone to Kroger and said, look, this is what we have, and Kroger on it's amazing, we're going to take it on. And as well as other, Whole Foods, I think, is another new one we've had recently. And I'm just looking at all these brand deals, and if they're seeing it and they're taking more SKUs on and taking their product on, it must be a great product. So that's kind of what I kind of built it around to start with.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And obviously the whole theme of niche of my channel is PlantStocks, right? So for me, I feel that we are entering a paradigm shift in society now, right? Where a lot of people, they've been talking about EV stocks like crazy now the last few years. and a lot of YouTubers just focus on EVs like Tesla, and I love that. I believe in the EV changing sustainability on the planet. But as I've talked about many times on this channel, according to the UN, there's nothing that actually moves sustainability or actually affects sustainability more than what we eat, right? So, I mean, that doesn't mean that you can't love eating meat and dairy products and stuff like that. It's not about that. But knowing that's basically the case, for me, I feel, and you see it, and I've been plant-based for 20 years now, right? So I've seen what's been happening, in the supermarkets. Yesterday, I went at one of my favorite stores. It's an ordinary huge store, but they have like this huge, super huge aisle now of only plant-based food. There's just one aisle for like plant-based cheeses. I mean, and then one for yogurts, and you get the drift, right? So, and then frozen sections is filled up. And I just see it like happening, in the next 5 to 10 years, that more and more people are going to eat plant-based. There's no question about it. I don't think that necessarily has to mean that everyone is becoming vegan, but people know more and more about not eating too much animal products. Probably has an effect on your overall longevity. And eating too much has a real effect on the planet when it comes to sustainability. It outweighs, what cars and the transport sector does actually. So I think when there are more and more plant-based companies IPOing now, and especially these ones, Beyond Meat is the first mover. There's no question about that. That's the industry leader at the moment. But I think Tattoo Chef is very close by because there weren't that many when that actually came out and IPO'd. Not at this level that is that big. So I think even though they're not a first mover, they're one of the first movers, Tattoo Chef. And they are, like you talked about, they are executing like crazy. And the kind of growth they have was about 60% now per year. I mean, that's amazing. I don't know where you see those kind of growths normally in a company. So
especially in this sort of industry as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So do you have a bear case, something that worries you about the company, maybe in a couple of months or a few years, or something you just keep in mind, right?
Yeah, with Tattoo Chef, it's probably one of my most bullish stocks I do have. And that's why it's one of my biggest positions in the stock market portfolio. Normally the ones that I think, how can I see this fail, get bigger and bigger in my portfolio? And that's why it's near the top. So yeah, to be honest with you, there's not much there. And that's why it's reflected in my position size.
Yeah.
I think you've probably seen my videos recently. Probably the one thing that I would like them to improve on is the communication side of the company. Yeah. I think that's the only weak point it does have.
Yeah, that was one of my questions, and one of some of my subscribers' questions that we should discuss is like, what's going on with their communication?
I don't know. It's a bit strange at the moment, and I didn't even make this point in my video that I did the other day. But someone on the Discord actually sent me this, and I was like, "That's a really good point." Is as well the amount of copy and paste replies that they do on their investor relations when there is some sort of incident. I get they probably have like 3,000 emails from people that are like, what's going on? But, just at least just mix up a couple of words in it every so often or something, as that was another point. But yeah, I think like my biggest problem is the communication side of it, because when I watched the analyst day, like, wow, this is so impressive. I was blown away when I watched analyst day, and I think I even bought more shares after that.
Yeah.
But then I think since then, like the earnings, I think when they brought their earnings out, they've been pretty good earnings, and they could generally just go down after earnings. I'm not saying it is because of communication, but I felt like their actual conference calls could have been slightly better. I mean, part of the reason as well, I guess, was analyst questions as well, but they're not in control of that.
No.
But I just feel like the information that was there is, because after listening to Tattoo Chef, I actually went to listen on the recent one. I went to go listen to Shopify's earnings call, and I think after their last earnings, the stock went absolutely crazy. And I just listened to their conference call, and the CEO of Shopify just left me, but basically, I was listening to him, and I thought, wow, this is like he's just blowing it out of the water. He's going, so this is what we did, and because of that, that's why this grew so much, and because we did this has grown so much, and we're doing this now, and that's going to help it. And I just listened to the little difference of it, and I was like, we could just improve it a little bit. And even on the communication side of it, like what the videos I made recently, and people that are watching this might not know what I'm talking about, is like the actual website going down and
Yeah.
then putting on a website that is for like website maintenance for a few weeks. And
Yeah.
I've just never seen that before, like a billion-dollar company taking websites down for a few weeks. Granted, I've said before, like I don't think that's a major part of what brings in revenue,
Oh.
but it's just the fact that you're doing.
Yeah.
They said it was because they're changing the suppliers or the distributors of the actual product on the logistics side, and it was like, well, that's not website maintenance, is it? Can we
No.
just clear things up so we don't have these problems? And like previously, when Chuck left, and there was
Yeah.
the gifting of shares, put clear it up with us, and then we don't have these problems. Because when you've got a stock that's shorted 30%, any little bits like that, they will bounce on, they'll
Yeah.
jump on it, and they'll blow it out more the water than what I do, and
Yeah.
we don't want that. So it's just be a bit clear on what's going on with the company, I think. But that's the only weak point, and if that's your weak point in the company, it's nothing major, because you can
No. No.
easily improve communication. The major problem was if revenue was slowing, if we have supply chain issues, if the product wasn't growing, if Target go, actually, you know what, let's actually get rid of 6 SKUs, then you're like, well, that's a major problem. But
Yeah.
this is just something I think could be just slightly improved and isn't a big deal, but where I'd like them to go, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think I actually commented this morning on your latest chef video when you talked about the web page and what's going on, and you not getting a response, but you got it from a subscriber,
Yeah.
and the whole e-commerce situation. And I think I wrote that I do think that the CEO Sam Galletti, he mentioned that, I think it was on the Jeffries call, on the conference call, that he, not that he had an attitude, but basically that he just mentioned basically that their e-commerce is not critical to their business. So I mean, I understand that, and I respect that, but it's kind of like that was basically what he said, and like stating like it's not so important for them at the moment, and it does kind of seem that way when you take a look at the page, and I think that's kind of, I think, long term. I mean, I do believe that it's still long term is going to be the stores that are more important, but I think more and more people will go into this whole Amazon trend, right? Like you order in you order from stores instead. Like since the pandemic, and I keep doing that here in Sweden. I don't go in the soup. I quickly go to supermarkets every now and then, but I'm so used to now ordering every week like 5-6 huge bags, driving to the store, and they have these freezers outside, and I just pick my food and then drive again, because it's more convenient now, right? I've gotten used to it. I pay like $5 to do it, and I think that's totally worth it. Why should I go in there for a half an hour shopping for the family, right? So I feel like it feels like it would be interesting for them, be of an interest long term, anyways.
Yeah, 100%. I think that I don't think the big thing is building up the SKUs in the stores and everything, but in a big online presence would be great, because you
Mm.
imagine if you do like a weekly shop on Tattoo Chef, and
Yeah,
you're buying the same bundle direct from the website every week, then as a Tattoo Chef shareholder, that's going to mean you're going to make more profit on the items that you sell, because you're buying it directly from Tattoo Chef.
yeah,
And that repeat customer process of coming in, direct orders, shipped, I think it's just a big side of the company that could grow. Repeat orders from Tattoo Chef,
exactly.
just a lot more profit, isn't it? So it's something that I can understand is not major to them, but I think it's probably a little income stream that would be very good for them in the long term.
Definitely, totally agree with you on that. So I mean, obviously we can't predict the future as always, but like the revenues going forward, like in Q2, the 2021, I think was it Roth Capital that predicted it'll be now Q2 a bit less than Q1, was around 52 million.
Right.
Do you see them landing around those kind of things, or you think they'll do better?
I've not seen that from Roth Capital, what they're predicting, but I don't know really. Potentially, I mean, I'd be interested to know why they've kind of downgraded the forecast.
Mm.
Do you have any? Have you seen
I
what
don't.
the
I didn't see
research?
an explanation on their because they had a whole Excel document that you could take, and I got that and I shared that with my subscribers. And the only thing I could imagine that they worry why it's going to go down a little just during Q2 is apparently, according to them, going up again in Q3 and Q4. I could just imagine that they're thinking about vacation time and summertime, right? That
Yeah,
maybe more people, especially now with the vaccines happening with Rona, that people actually go out eating now like crazy, maybe, which will benefit Beyond Meat. But I think if and people won't go to the frozen aisles now as much. Don't won't. So that's the only thing. The vacation times that that I could consider. I don't know. Well, what do you think?
yeah, potentially just with the change of seasons that maybe people are moving away from where we're going to. And this is actually moving into Beyond Meat season, which is funny enough because Beyond Meat was, I think, the last quarter they came out and said that we're actually going to predict some good growth in because we're getting to barbecue season.
Exactly.
Everyone's going to go buy the burgers and everything like that, and that's
Yeah.
why they gave quite good guidance going into the next quarter. I believe I think theirs was like 30%, was it? 30%
Yeah.
revenue growth.
Mm.
Not sure if that was right, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think as long as they stay somewhere around this sort of mark, we'll be fine because potentially I would kind of expect them to still put in a good quarter because they have expanded more and more SKUs. They
Yeah.
have more and more stores that are happening now and more products in stores. So I would still expect a decent quarter from Tattooed Chef. So yeah, I would expect them to at least probably be in line with where they're at. So if they were to go below where they're expecting, yeah, it would be good to move in the right direction, I think. But,
Yeah.
a quarter over quarter isn't a huge thing. I think it's more like where it's building in the long term of,
Exactly.
I think the big thing that everyone's kind of looking at the moment is getting to that $1 billion mark in revenue. I think everyone's kind of hooked on that, thinking when are we going to get that? Because I think that's what everyone's predicting further down the line is this is going to be a company that does bring in $1 billion. And I think everyone's kind of looking at that and thinking, okay, if we get into that $1 billion in revenue, where's the valuation going to be trading at?
Exactly.
Because what are we now, like a 1.7 billion company, is it?
Yeah, something like 1.6,
Something like that?
1.7, jumping up and down as always.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if we get to $1 billion revenue, we know we're not going to be valued at that sort of valuation.
No.
So there's questions of what it will be valued at, but I for sure know it's not going to be that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to talk to you about that, because yeah, Emmanuel's video when it came out a couple of days ago, he predicted like possibility. He didn't say that's going to happen. I think we're just playing around with that. But could it 25x in the stock price, right, in 10 years? And that's dependent on the PE's ratio being around 10, right? Because now it's been around 10 for quite a long time. And I would say as a growth stock, especially in this sector, but I think most growth stocks, I think a PE's ratio of 10 is really low for a growth company, for a disruptive growth company, right? So, and obviously it's on, Beyond Meat is usually around 2022. It's at 23 now. And Tesla, which is a major one, is around
And
22.
the thing with Beyond Meat as well is that you've got a lot of impacted sales as well. So you've had a year where the revenue is pretty much been absolutely terrible because it's
Exactly.
lost half the company for the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So, that's one thing to consider as well, Beyond Meat.
But exactly. So, but I do love, that Emmanuel, he seems even more bullish than me on Tattoo Chef, like a 25x. I've talked about that I could see a possibility to 10xing the stock in maybe 5 to 10 years from now, right? But and then 25x seems incredible, right? And the idea of it keeping then, of course, about a 10 PS ratio in 10 years, to some or a lot of people, I think they feel like, nah, that seems too extreme because it'll be more mature kind of thing like that than food companies. They trade. I think Tyson Foods is probably one of the biggest food companies out there, especially when it's animal agriculture. They're trading, I think, around 0.7, 0.8, and then Conagra is 1.5. So I guess around 1. But my understanding is, I actually don't agree that it would be that low. I'm not sure if it would be at the PS ratio of 10, but I don't think it's impossible. but because 10 years in the food business, that's not very long at all. I mean, Conagra Foods was, I think it's about 100 years old. Tyson Foods is about 90 years old. So, I mean, they're not really innovating anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing. Is like that's why I always like to say like 2 to 5 years, because you can kind of see where it's going. 10 years, I mean, there's a lot of things that might play into what
True,
we're at.
true.
But yeah, I guess when you look at Tattoo Chef, I mean, they're probably still going to be in a very big growth period, even in 10 years' time.
Mm.
Questionable whether it's 60% or maybe a little bit lower, because the more your revenue goes up, the harder it is to carry on increasing that, and that's
Yeah,
generally why your revenue rate will slow down.
yeah,
But in that time, you've still got big, we're only scratching the surface in the US at the moment.
yeah.
We're not even talking about EU growth, which
No,
is arguably a bigger market than
I
what
think
the
so too.
US is.
I think so too.
you know,
Because
yeah,
plant-based, if you look at stats, anyways, plant-based eating and interest in plant-based food, anyways, is much larger, I think, in Europe than it is in the US right now. Obviously, we have basically double the population here, uh, but
yeah,
uh, but I mean, a company I thought, depending on time later, I thought we could talk about was Oatly too, because Oatly has been doing crazy in the UK. I mean, it went up like in revenues 200% last year. So I
yeah.
mean, and the UK seems to be among all countries in Europe. Yeah, the UK and England seems to be the best when it comes to plant-based food. So
Well, we have to be the best at something, because we're not best at many other things.
I like the humility there.
But yeah, I totally agree. Like, even in the UK now, the amount of times I go to the supermarket and I look at the freezer section, and like you said earlier, the plant based freezer section is just getting bigger and bigger and taking more and more up. And I look at it every time. I try and mix up a couple of supermarkets I go to. I try and do a little bit of research while doing the weekly shop as well, and just have a
Yeah.
look at what's going on. And every time I go to a lot of stores, and I'm like, there's still no Tattoo Chef products here. There's still no Beyond Meat products here.
Mm,
There's a few more starting to creep in.
mm,
And most of the time it's only the burgers at the moment which are in the stores. But I'm looking and thinking, there's all this plant-based freezer section, and the competition is heating up. But I look at it and think, I can just see it, Tattoo Chef there, and I think they would do very well. And
yeah.
I look at what's there, and I think, I just see that Tattoo product, and I just thought it's going to catch people's eyes, and it'll do very well. And I keep looking forward to the day where I'm actually going to go through my local supermarket, and I'll see it there in the freezer section and go, that's it.
Have
We'll
you?
get in
So
there.
you haven't tried any of their products either?
I've tried the Tattoo Chef products because it is in Costco in UK.
Right.
And I've tried the Beyond Meat Burger because it's in Tesco's in the UK.
Yeah.
But they've just moved to another supermarket, Sainsbury's, so you can actually get it in Sainsbury's now. But there's not many other supermarkets apart from them that
No.
have the actual products in at the moment. So we're not gifted with too many products, because that's one thing is, like, when I do buy into a stock, I like to try the product, even though if I don't have much idea if it's a good or bad product. I just want to see what it's like, so I
Exactly.
just have a bit more confidence in that product, so I know what I'm buying, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I had to do a trip to Costco for that, and I had to do a trip to Tesco to get the Beyond Meat Burger. But yeah, that's one thing I like to do, to just test the product a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to their expansion, and like we talked about Europe, and it does seem like they're going to focus on eventually. I mean, as you said, and I think that's also what Matt Williams, the chief growth officer, talked about in one of his conference calls, is that yes, obviously they're going to expand internationally, but their main focus at this very moment, and that's important to keep in mind, just at the moment, is going to be the U.S. And I think and that's including me. So sometimes we're like, it's going to expand international and blah blah blah, but the U.S. in itself is still a really huge market.
That's the thing, is the US we're only just scratching it. The Tattoo Chef brand only been created, what, 1 year, 2 year?
Mm,
It's hardly been out, and we're only just touching the US, and you're seeing the growth. You put that into Europe, even China's another big market. You're seeing what Beyond Meat are doing over in China at the moment, which is absolutely crazy.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that the more Tattoo Chef does build up, the revenue will, in my opinion, in the next 10 years will still the Tattooed Chef revenue in the next 10 years will still build up
Yeah.
quite a lot over the next period. The more you go up, it's harder to keep up them growth rates. But I still think, it's not going to be trading, in my opinion, at the same valuation as a company that grows 2-3% a year.
No,
I think that, we're still going to be double-digit growth for a very long time,
definitely.
and we will trade at definitely a higher valuation to what other stocks will trade at. So yeah, I think that at the moment, the valuation, going back to the question before, that the valuation will drop slightly.
Yeah.
But I still think we'll trade at a lot bigger premium than what the other competitors will, because of the growth that we do have.
Definitely. I think also Matt Williams talked about Mexico. It almost sounded like he said it's really hard at these conference calls because there's so much information, but it goes quickly through, and the people interviewing them, they're not really. Quite often, they're not talking a lot. They're just like you get these golden nuggets, and they're like and I'm like, okay, dude.
Yes, yeah. So, the amount of time I honestly I listen to conference call and go, what? Ask a question about it, and then just skip past it, and then just carry on. I'm like, no, tell me more. Tell me more. Why? How is this happening?
Exactly, because he just said like, yeah, and we're in Mexico, and I'm like, what? You're in Mexico? And I mean, like Mexico is like a super huge market. I mean, I'm not sure what 120 million people there. And I mean, so because the whole tortilla factory, Carson Tortilla and New Mexico Foods, the facilities, like they talk about, they're going to start doing a lot of tortilla products and probably Latin inspired food, right? And I do see that as an incredible market because in South America, they have a long history of having traditional dishes that are plant-based, not always 100% plant-based, but so, I mean, Tattooed Chef is not that with most of their products anyhow, or several of their products, but I think the market could be there. I mean, really interesting. And I think CEO also mentioned that he didn't realize what a super large TAM possibility it is when it comes to tortilla in itself. And just in the Carson facility, if they wanted to, they could produce about 70 million pounds of tortillas per year. And I mean, that's amazing. So those kind of numbers.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like you just look at all of the different areas they have the potential to go in, and you're just like, wow, this is just such a good golden opportunity. And as well, I think like to go buy that New Foods of Mexico, I don't know how they managed to locate it, but that purchase just looks absolutely phenomenal for the next few years, and what they've managed to get from it. I even feel like, kind of going back to the communication side of it, I feel like they could have made even a bigger deal out of purchasing the factories. I feel like they could have maybe done a virtual tour. They could have done a question and answer session on it, a video session on it, and just get a bit more details on it, because I feel like that, I think they did a press release at the time, but I even feel like that could have even been a big massive virtual tour or a conference call talking about it, the potential, where they see it going. I mean, they gave some little gems in there about where they see it going, and one thing that I was still shocked about is that I think that when they purchased it, I don't think they even raised. Did they raise guidance? But it still wasn't like a huge amount, was it?
No.
When they purchased it, and
it was I think about 30. It ended up being $37 million, I think.
Yeah. So something.
Yeah,
like
the guidance. Yeah. We're talking about eventually that they think that those facilities, with time, within the next 2 to 3 years, could be another. Was it 200 to 300? $1 million just from those facilities alone.
Yeah.
But they didn't really hype it or anything. They didn't like really. Okay, 200-300 million. I'm like, come on, that's huge, dude. So like,
exactly. This is what I was saying earlier about this communication side of it. Just don't be like, yeah, we're going to make 300 million extra a year now. Got 300 million a year now. We're going to have, show it off a little bit and.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we said earlier.
And they're not talking about, we'll get 200-300 million from those facilities. Yeah, like that's it. No, we're talking about annually. I mean, that really, if you add that up to everything else they've been talking about, for me, sometimes I'm worrying about the company and the CEO and the management team that I'm going to stereotype. I'm half Swedish, right? Half Indian, but I'm born and raised in Sweden. And I keep thinking like maybe they have the same attitude. If I stereotype Swedish people, because Swedish people are really known for being really low key. We don't want to exaggerate ever. Like we're like that's not the case with me, obviously. But so I feel like they're really at ease when you compare to a lot of other companies out there who'll be like, yeah, we'll grow like crazy. We're going to do this and that. So to some extent, I really respect them for that. But sometimes
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're downplaying it a little too much,
Yeah, exactly. You do have to admire them a little bit that they are kind of doing all these amazing things, and they're like, yeah, fair enough, and yeah, that sounds really good, and we'll make a lot of money, and our revenue is going to go crazy, and yeah, it's good, isn't it? And, it is. You got to admire them that they're kind of chilled about it, but at the same time, sometimes you do have to show off a little bit and go, looking, a bit to Wall Street, bit to investors, and go, this is absolutely amazing. You buy our stock, look at what we're doing here.
Exactly. So because again, I mean, with a huge short and even though it is if you're only using value metrics, obviously this is a overvalued company. But as I think we talked about on my channel many times, that you can't really use only value. I mean, valuation matters 100%. We should always be aware of that. But using value metrics only on a growth company, a disruptive growth company, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, like just looking at PE ratios and stuff like that. But from a PS ratio, price to sales, I mean, it's almost undervalued, I would say, if you compare it to other kind of growth companies out there.
Yeah, massively agree with that. Yeah, when you look at even some other stocks that have this management team, the balance sheet that it has, the growth plan it has, the customers that it has, you look at what it's valued at and you're thinking, this is cheap. This is pretty cheap, isn't it? So yeah, massively agree.
Yeah. So if I just move on to some questions from shareholders and from me to some extent, depending on them. I had one of the I think his name is Gleb. He's from Holland, from the Netherlands. So he takes this very serious, and he said, so Tattoo Chef, the companies focus on frozen dishes. Nowadays, millennials and Gen Zs are the main drivers behind veganism and vegetarianism for different reasons. Millennials and Gen Z could purchase fresh products from the local market, cook them at home. Additionally, by doing this, they will support the local farmers and contribute to local sustainability. Why then should millennials and Gen Z keep buying frozen fruit from the chef? So I think I have the answer to that, but it'd be interesting to hear your take on that. Why should it, when they can do it themselves, why should they go and sponsor another company?
I think the younger generations that are coming through are definitely more short on time. And I think that in an ideal world, we would all love to do that, and we would do that. But there's just certain situations, it's a Monday night, you've been at work for 12 hours. What have you got in the freezer? Oh, we've got this Tattoo Chef product, put it on. There we go. It's done in a few minutes. And
yeah.
I think that, I think as always, it's nothing against local shops buying fresh products and everything. I think that, obviously a big mixture is great, but I think Tattoo Chef products, for what they are there for at the moment, is the ideal solution to probably time. And as when they've got the reviews that they do have, because if you go on the reviews that they have on their websites, they're very good reviews, and people are thinking, well, I'll have a good tasting meal that doesn't take too long to prepare, I guess.
Exactly. No, I mean, I still feel that it's people have a huge misunderstanding when it comes to nutrition value of fresh produce and frozen, because people instinctively think that it's logical to think that if you go and buy in the vegetable section, fresh asparagus, let's say, or broccoli or whatever, or cauliflower, probably more appropriate here, that if you do buy that, and then that's going to have a higher nutritional value, because if you freeze it, stuff dies. But everything I've read about that from a science perspective, research perspective, is actually quite the other way around. Because when you go, getting these vegetables and taking it directly from the roots and what have you, you basically put it down in a box directly, and you freeze it directly. So basically, the nutritional value it had when it was in the root, because directly when you take it from the roots or from the plants, it's going to start to decay, right? So it starts losing a lot of these different nutritional values directly, the vitamins, the minerals, and so on. But if you freeze it directly, you're basically keeping it at the level it had from the beginning. And people think it's fresh produce. Usually, it's still been in the store for days and days. So obviously not the same when it's locally, but it's still different. It's still going to have higher quality from a nutritional perspective being frozen.
Yeah, exactly. And I think people forget that freezing directly, you actually hold a lot of what it has in the actual vegetables, fruit, whatever you're freezing. Yeah, it is one thing that I think quite often people kind of put off. Freezer food, it's not healthy. You want to be eating fresh, but actually, in some cases, it's actually just as good or even better. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing with microwaving food. Most of their food, or a lot of their foods, are microwavable, right? And I was for a lot of years, even though for me, academia and university studies, I was becoming a historian. I was going to apply for a PhD for a couple of years ago. For me, it's all about the science. But even though for 20 years, I was stuck in this mindset about microwaves, that don't touch microwaves, that's going to kill you kind of thing. And obviously, sure, you shouldn't put in something and then stand with your head in front of it all day or something like that. That's not super smart. But again, from a health perspective and nutritional value, microwaving food is actually among the best you can do. It's actually better than boiling and cooking your food because it goes faster, right? So when you have it too long on the stove or the oven, that's when you start losing the nutritional value, right? It starts dying off. But if you put it in for 3, 5, 6 minutes, what have you, it goes quicker. So from a health perspective, it's actually better to have it in the microwave. So even though a lot of people create hysteria regarding that and have some conspiracy theories, and obviously we don't know 100% yet. I mean, we'll probably have to wait 20, 30 years ahead, but we've had them for a long time now, right? What is it, 30, 40 years we've been having microwaves. So, and I don't think that's what's killing us off.
Yeah, only a few years ago, wasn't it? Well, I say only a few years ago, probably longer than that. But that microwave dinner explosion that happened, and more and more microwave dinners were getting more popular. And I think now we're moving on to this kind of vegan boom. This the tattoo chef Beyond Meat. I think this is the next cycle in the food industry developing now, where we're moving away even to I think this is the next cycle of basically the food industry, and as people move away from meat and I think your general education for healthy products is just getting massive, even more, taught and available out there.
Yeah.
That, you get more information about, this is eat healthy and these are the perks of eating healthy. And I think that this is the next movement in the food industry as well, which is also a key thing to remember when we talk about Tattoo Chef and Beyond Meat.
Definitely. This guy also had another question was regarding the market. So he's like, do you see TTCF growing in other markets than frozen foods? And which would they be?
Well, as far as we've got from the management team, it looks like we are on our way there. So I would say that we are probably moving out of the frozen foods at some point.
Yeah.
They keep giving a little different time frames. I think it was 2 years, and now I think it looks like it could even be as soon as this year that it happens. Yeah, it looks like from what we've got from management team, they will move into different areas. And I think if Beyond Meat do want to scale past where they are at now and kind of push past a 5 billion market cap company up to a 10 billion, 15, 20, that will probably be where they diverse their revenue, just like Beyond Meat, and move into that food service side of it. That could be one of the big things. Snacks is another big thing.
Yeah, I think he said the snacks they'll already in I think it was the Carson facility, they will be able to already in Q4 start with snacks production, but he doesn't know if it's going to hit the stores already then, considering it's going to be the holidays, so people will be focused on other stuff. But he meant kind of but it could happen, but Q1 for sure that this should be in 2022. That should be selling the snacks.
Yeah, we know it's in the pipeline somewhere, and I think
Yeah,
it will come in at some point, which
yeah,
is great. More diverse revenue. We've
yeah,
seen what the food service, well, until last year,
yeah,
that we saw what the food service was doing beyond meat side of the company. That was in Europe, I believe it was even going faster than the actual retail side of it. So yeah, I think that if they can move into that, which they look like they will do, yeah, it will be another great thing for the company.
yeah, yeah. I actually made a video about that yesterday. I talked about the kind of spaces that I think is still open for them just in the frozen section that they're not really touching as of yet, like desserts, like what's going on there, because there, I think that could be a huge market too, because there's a
Yeah,
plant-based company in Canada called Nabati Foods. They're one of their whole things is actually they have like 4 or 5 different cheese cases, cheesecakes. I'm losing my English here, but and they're a whole foods approach, right? They're basically healthy and totally 100% plant based, gluten free. What I've heard so far, they taste really great, and I think that's definitely something that the chef, they're all about the convenience, they're all about having a healthier, sustainable thing, right? So I think they could move into like desserts or healthier ice creams out there, plant-based ice creams, mud cakes, different kinds of frozen desserts.
yeah. I think that is the exact key point about why we're all excited as investors is that we are literally looking at this company and going,
Yeah,
there is so many things that these could do and
yeah,
will do. And we're even thinking, we're not even thinking where they're going to be like in the next year. We look further down the line and we're seeing all these different things are going to go down, the desserts, the snacks, the food service. As investors, this is why we're so excited. And I think why we talk about it so much and why I think Tattoo Chef makes up quite a big position once you realize the potential
yeah,
is that you're looking at this and going, there's so many things they can do
yeah,
and it could be amazing. And I think
exactly.
that's exactly why we're so excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, I also speculated like others. I mean, they're going into a lot of Latino foods and stuff like that. But I'm thinking, I mean, I'm biased there, but what about Indian food, right? And what about Thai food? I mean, all the kind of dishes they could do that with using cauliflower rice. I mean, I think that would also be huge with time, and especially in the UK, I imagine Indian food is really popular over there, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Mm,
and once again, you talk about another industry that could go in and disrupt
mm,
and make some food for it. I mean, it's just the possibilities are just crazy. The amount of industries they can go into, it's crazy to think about.
yeah. And then we had another talking about kosher certification. A subscriber, he felt like could we see them going into that because that would be a larger addressable market, right? And for me, kosher, I guess that's the a Jewish form of a lifestyle, right? That you, my understanding is that you don't with kosher, you don't obviously you don't have they don't eat pork, I think.
Yeah,
So if you had that certification, that would be good. And also, I don't think they actually mix. I could be misunderstanding here. I don't think they mix dairy and other forms of food. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you're.
yeah. I'm not too up on it myself, but yeah, I think that's the understanding that I have. Yeah, I think it's more around like the Jewish community. I think it
Mm,
is, and I think it is pork related.
mm.
So yeah, I think that as far as I'm aware, I don't think there's probably pork featured in many of the products that they do have currently at the moment. So it
I
could
don't
be
think
something
any.
they.
So, is it a,
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't think there's any kind of
No, there's not.
products that
No,
they're in.
there's no
So
meat there. They do have dairy, but
yeah,
there's no meat related stuff or fish. What I
no,
understand, anyways. So because then I
yeah,
totally misunderstood the whole company. It's like,
yeah. So it seems like it could be something to go down.
yeah,
Just, I mean, I don't know. It's an area that I'm not massive on. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but
no,
I'm sure. I don't know how hard it is to get that, but I'm sure
yeah.
it's something they could consider.
Exactly. Something I've been thinking about also, I've talked about it on the channel. I'm not sure if that might not be something you've been reflecting on, but me personally, I've been wondering if they might in the years to come go 100% plant based because I feel like if they did that, they definitely a even larger addressable market, right? Because then basically all people, no matter if you eat meat or you're flexitarian, vegetarian, vegan, already gluten sensitivities is perfect there, right? Because I think most of them, if not all of them, are gluten free, right? And then there's plenty of people who aren't vegan, but they're sensitive when it comes to lactose, right? So all of a sudden, you're opening up a much larger market for basically anyone can eat their products. So do you think because there is a worry that if there's one worry I have about the company, and I understand people think I'm biased, or I might be biased to some extent. I mean, I am vegan, but I'm biased. But I do think this could be one. I'm talking in the very long term. This could be something that could hit them up in a negative way if they don't make that move, because they do talk a lot about sustainability and health, right? And then still having a lot of our products that has dairy. And I'm not sure if you've heard of a concept that's getting larger and larger in society called woke washing. Have you heard about that?
I don't know that.
No, woke washing, I've talked about it once only. It's basically an idea that a lot of customers, especially millennials and Gen Zs, if there is a larger company, it could be food company, but it could be something else, that are starting to promote that we're all about the sustainability. That's why we come with these products, right? These are really good. But yet the company still has a lot of other products that aren't very sustainable. Wok washing will be then that the younger generation, they'll be aware of this. They're like, well, who are you trying to fool? And they'll stop buying stuff from them totally, because they feel like just because you have some stuff that are healthy or better for the planet, what about the other things that you keep producing? So I don't think that's going to be a problem right now, because they are in the perfect middle ground in many ways, right? They have some stuff for vegans, and most of it is vegetarian. But I worry that debate could become bigger and bigger as we move on, right?
Yeah, it is. I have thought before it would be very interesting to see what area they kind of focus on, and if they stay in whatever lane they want to stay in, or if they cross multiple lanes and have different products for different audiences. It would be very interesting to see where they go with that point of view, and it's something that I thought about. I wondered where they potentially could take this product, and if there is a target audience, they just stay to, or they have multiple products, because it is. I'm not sure how I feel about it myself. I've thought about it multiple times, and I still don't know how I feel about it if they kind of go, oh, our products are all vegan products, and everyone knows they're all vegan products, or do they kind of limit themselves to only that audience? I mean, I don't know myself. I'm still kind of thinking about it. I kind of always think about as well, do they, are they going to go more towards as well, expand to like beyond meat side of it, where they also start pushing more, meat products, or artificial meat products as well. Are they going to develop them more? Are they going to stay, only vegetarian meals only? And it's something I've thought about multiple times, and I to be honest with you, I don't really have an answer on where I would potentially see them going. And I'll be honest, I think and Sarah Glay are probably the best people to decide this, because they know the brand more than anyone, and I'm sure they'll make the correct decision where they see the company going. But it's something that I thought about as well. I mean, like you were saying, I think maybe if they were to go directly down one path and everyone knows that products applies to that audience, then that would probably be a better understanding, because then you don't have to like worry about we looking at the packaging, what's in this meal, is this can I have this meal? I think, it's something that I thought about, and it's a tough decision. It's a tough decision where they go, and I'll trust the management team to make the correct decision for that.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually emailed them 1 or 2 weeks ago about that, because there was a subscriber that claimed that he had been in discussion with them, and they said that eventually they're going to make that move. But that's not something. I mean, there's always rumors here and there, right? So I just felt I wanted to hear that from themselves. But as always, they haven't responded. So I don't know. It might be. You said
I was waiting for you to tell me what they said. Then I went, no way they're going to say that they aren't responding again.
I mean, actually, it's happened a couple of times with this company, and I'm like, okay, is it something personal with me or something like, or maybe Because
But
that
it's being
normal,
you. It's being
yeah,
you.
yeah. Because you said so too. They might have something against you, or they don't
All the
like you.
subscribers are getting replies. It's being you.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I don't know. Maybe I should be on the have change my name or be in the download that I'm a YouTuber, because personally I thought that might give me, not that I think that should be correct, but maybe you'll get special treatment. They'll be like, okay, he talks about us, he's free commercial. Basically, we're not getting money for talking about their company, right? I'm not from them, certainly not. So I'm like, so it would be in the best interest to let us know, so we'll talk about it. And instead they're like, they're ignoring us, and I'm like, what's? I think Emmanuel said that a few times, that yeah, he's been asking them, and I've been asking them about interviewing someone in the management team, and it's like zip, like
Yeah,
but
yeah. They just left you on red, didn't they? Just ghosting you.
exactly. So, and then a last one here before we move on to Beyond Meat. A subscriber asked, when it comes to the end growth, could it end the growth if supermarkets are copycats? I'm guessing if supermarkets do more
Yeah,
copying their food and private label and stuff like that. What do you think about that? Could that be a situation that could
yeah.
happen?
I guess that all just goes down to competition and how much competition you feel like there's going to be. I think when you're talking about an industry like the food industry, there's not going to be just one product. If you wanted to go buy, I don't know, a packet of crisps from the supermarket, you're not just going to go into the supermarket and go, oh, there's, this so and so brand there. There's a complete aisle of different crisp manufacturers come to each other. The difference is that crisps are such a developed market, whereas we're talking about a market here, which I saw the figures the other day of how fast this market's growing. I can't remember them on top of my head, but I was like, wow, it's even faster than what I thought it was.
I think 20% right now or something like that. Yeah.
Something in the 20% range,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Mm,
I was like, this is just crazy, crazy growth that we're having here. So
mm.
I think there is going to be competition. It
Oh,
is, you need to. Everyone eats food.
mm,
It's a must of a life is that you eat food.
yeah.
It's not whether or not you go decide if you want to go spend 1,000 on that TV. You've got to eat food at the end of the day, and it's a massive industry. It's a big, massive TAM, and there will be competition that comes in here. But I
Okay.
think when you look at what Tattoo Chef are achieving at the moment, with like we said earlier, with the SKUs, the amount of SKUs they're getting in stores, the reviews, as long as you have a product that is well received and is previously been increased, and my money's on this one at the moment, because I
Yeah.
think that what you have here is a company with a track record,
Yeah.
and I don't see how that's going to stop going forward.
No, and it's like this whole Peter Lynch thing. Manuel talks a lot about that, about one up on Wall Street, right? If you're there before
Yeah,
Wall
right.
Street really notice it, then we're good to go, right? Because when they actually notice it, that's the thing. Like we talked about, people shorting the stock. And me necessarily, I know that not everyone has a long-term approach and might be annoyed with me now, but me necessarily from a selfish long-term perspective, I'm good with the shorting to some extent, to be honest, because that gives me a perfect time to keep investing at good prices, right? Because if it actually
Yeah.
does blow up there and it goes up to 30, $35, 40 eventually, um, yeah, I'll be like, man, like it went too fast. I want to keep investing
Yeah.
at these prices, right? So,
Yeah. That's one thing that I get all the time is like people, when they invest into a company, they might buy a company and the stock price does nothing for maybe 6 months, 12 months,
mm,
18 months. And like, oh, I'm so bored of this stock, it does nothing. I'm like, really? Like this is great. I'm buying this company over 18-month period, and I have money coming into the portfolio, and I can keep buying and buying and buying. And one day you can't tell me that this company keeps putting in great revenue growth, profit growth if it gets there, and it's going to stay at the same price.
yeah,
As soon as Wall Street wakes up and they see, oh, have you seen that Tattoo Chef company? They're growing revenue at 60% rate. They've just like got the fastest selling product ever in Target, or what was said on the other conference call
right,
is, when they wake up and it'll be like, all right, we'll go buy this company, and it'll just woof, and then you'll be like, oh well, I wish I bought more.
exactly. I feel the same way, and I think the only problem I have with this company in this situation is it's a luxury problem, not never having enough money, because I'm always like, I want to keep moving into it. Right now, I'm focusing mostly on Tattoo Chef and Beyond Meat, trying to focus on them, building up my positions there, and sometimes I want to go because long term I see Beyond Meat doing extremely well, and but I do know short term Tattoo Chef might actually have an edge when it comes to making quicker money, right? So
Yeah.
so sometimes I'm like, oh, should I put all in in the chef at the moment? Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah, I understand. Exactly the point that I always come from. I look at Tattoo Chef and I look at the valuation compared to like a Beyond Meat, and I'm like, it is such a. I'm going to say it probably a better valuation than Beyond Meat, but I still think I look at Beyond Meat and I'm like, what they have playing for them as well. I still feel great opportunity. And it's like you look at them and you're trying to weigh them up, but both great companies.
Yeah, so that's a logical step now. Moving on to Beyond Meat.